Hello, everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, as per your respective time zone. On behalf of entire Mastek Managed Services team, we would like to welcome you all to 23A Supply Chain Management Advisory webinar session. This important session is to keep you fully synchronized with new features and functionalities as a part of this quarterly release which Oracle provides. On behalf of entire Mastek Managed Services team, we would like to welcome you all to 23A Supply Chain Management Advisory webinar session. My name is Komal Abel and I am an operations executive at Managed Services team. Today I am your host for this session and I'm glad to introduce my colleague Siddhi Mehta, who is part of our vast supply chain team at Mastek. Today, she will take us through all the procurement and advanced procurement updates for 23A quarterly release. Today's session is planned for around 45 to 60 minutes. We will make sure that we also leave some time to answer all your questions. We have our panelist Utsav Thakkar who will help us in answering the questions if any. Before we move to agenda, let's have a quick look at important disclaimer. Moving ahead to agenda. We would like to convey our approach towards the Oracle updates in a very simpler method. We will be taking you through vital analysis of 23A updates done by our experts, which will help you incorporating new features and updates easily into the system. Also, we will sync you on any known issues or bugs. It's always good to have an interactive session, so please do ask questions. You can ask questions through chat or question panel. We will make sure to answer them at the end of session. And in case if we run out of time, please be sure that we will respond to you back by connecting to you at a later stage. This is to give you a glimpse of how we have created the structure of this session. List of new features coming into 23A. Detailing on features so you get brief understanding on what new features are all about. There are four components where we have done in-depth analysis of features which we are going to present to you. First one is impact level analysis, which demonstrates the impact on the end user. If it's low impact, then regression testing can be avoided. If it's high, then we need to opt for regression testing. Second one is which is we all are aware that there are some features which are by default auto enabled by Oracle, and there are some which we need to opt for. Third one highlights the nature of the feature. There would be certain configurations which may be required or some can be used without any changes. Last one is quick win. This term we use to simply convey that what is ready to use by investing minimum amount of time and what requires significant amount of time and effort to make use of this feature. Before we move ahead, we would like to know with the help of a quick poll which industry does your organization belong to. Launching the poll on your screens. Thank you all for participating. Closing the poll. Now I would hand over the presentation to Siddhi and she will take us ahead on this webinar session.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for the information, Komal, and detailed explanation on the structure of our presentation to our attendees. So Oracle has released a list of 26 updates combined for both procurement and advanced procurement modules for their latest upcoming update, that is 23A. After analyzing all these updates, we have identified and tagged them based on the 4 criteria as we have shown in the previous slide. Out of these 26 updates, it is safe to say that 17 of them seems to be a quick win, which means user would be able to start using them without significant efforts. But again, it can depend on business to business basis. For rest of the updates, that is 9 of them, we do recommend users to do their own analysis and testing prior to using them. In the upcoming slides, we will go through the detailed analysis of each updates. The first update in the list is integrate and extend procurement using REST services. In this update, Oracle has added new REST APIs as well as enhanced existing REST APIs to enable and simplify integration with external systems. The new REST APIs introduced in this update are shopping lists and draft supplier negotiation responses. So these are the two new REST APIs which are introduced in 23A. There are a few REST APIs which are enhanced, like requisition preferences, draft purchase orders, and purchase orders. You can use this new and modified REST services to simplify integrations and support standards-based interoperability with your other applications and external systems. The next update is get newsfeed suggestions on your next likely actions. Using artificial intelligence and machine learning, Oracle Procurement suggests your likely actions in your newsfeed layout. The algorithms use historic navigation behavior and patterns of each user and users like them to determine which navigation target they are most likely to visit. Oracle Fusion Cloud applications have a wide range of functionality, and it can sometimes be difficult to know how to navigate to a task. With the help of newsfeed suggestions, you can get to the tasks that matter faster. For example, if reviewing and approving expense report is a task which is commonly performed by managers in your organizations, new managers will receive a suggestion in their news feed to perform that same task. Taking another example, if a few team members are entering performance goals, other members of that same team see this task as a suggestion in their news feed. There are business benefits for this feature. Receive recommendations in your news feed on your next likely actions during that session. Discover actions that other users like you have taken within the Fusion. So if there are a few users who have taken actions similar to you, then you can get those actions in your newsfeed suggestions automatically using the AI algorithms which Oracle has updated in this feature. Also, as an administrator, you can pin specific task flow pages as a suggestion to raise the visibility of the task. So even as an admin, you can pin few tasks so that those tasks can be viewed on the user's newsfeed suggestions. So these are the few business benefits for this feature. There is one important note for this feature. This feature is currently in controlled availability and requires a promotion code. To enable this feature, you need to log a service request through My Oracle support and request a promotion code. This feature is currently just limited to Oracle Procurement Cloud. The next update is classify master item purchases based on the most current purchasing category association. Previously, the purchase order lines referred to the purchasing category of the source agreement, but now with this feature, items on the purchase order lines would be classified based on the most recent category in the item definition form. This feature applies to the purchase orders created through user interface UI, FBDI, and REST resources. So now if you look at this particular screenshot, this screenshot is for an item which is needle, and the category for this item is now updated here in the category section. This screenshot shows a old purchase agreement, blanket purchase agreement, which has an older category. Now, once we enable this feature and we create a purchase order with this feature, the item now references to the latest purchasing category from the item definition master, and it does not take into consideration the category which is there on the blanket purchase agreement. So now the item is always referencing to the updated category from the item definition form. Moving on to the next feature, this is simple yet very useful feature. Correct the supplier item number on purchase orders. Suppliers and buyers both can now update the supplier item number on open purchase order lines sourced from blanket purchase agreements. This can be achieved either during the purchase order acknowledgement process or by creating a change order. So we can update the supplier item number during both the processes. A new supplier item modified approval attribute is now available at the document line dimension to create approval rules to route change orders for approvals when a supplier item is updated. So even there is a new attribute which is added to the list. As this screenshot shows, there is a change order which is created when a purchase order is in pending supplier acknowledgement status. Now here, as we can see, the purchase order has a source agreement, and even though the purchase order is in the pending supplier acknowledgement status, the buyer is able to create a change order and the supplier item number field is enabled for us to update. So this is after we enable this latest feature. This next screenshot shows that a purchase order has already been in open status and now a buyer is creating a change order for the purchase order. The first change order has been created and buyer is now able to see the supplier item number field which is enabled, and the buyer would be able to update this supplier item number field. This next screenshot shows that there is a new approval attribute which has been added to support this new update, that is supplier item modified. So we can write approval rules around this new supplier item modified attribute, so as we can go ahead and have approval rules for supplier item modification. Let's even look at a few important considerations for using this feature. You can update the supplier item attribute through electronic purchase order acknowledgement. We cannot update when purchase order acknowledgement takes place through the collaboration messaging framework model. Supplier initiated changes for supplier items are only supported through supplier portal as of now. You can update supplier items on incomplete and open purchase orders sourced from blanket purchase agreements using the REST draft purchase orders resource. Yet another simple and a very useful feature is copy requisition header attachments to the purchase order header. Before this update, the application copied the requisition header attachments onto each purchase order line that fulfilled the requisition. This resulted in duplicate attachments for the purchase order. In this update, the application can now copy the requisition header attachments directly to the purchase order header. This is an opt-in feature, and once we enable this feature, we can have all the requisition header attachments on the purchase order header instead of the purchase order lines. So here, as we can see in the screenshot, there is a requisition with header attachment office equipment codes. Now, when this requisition is converted to a purchase order, after enabling this feature, the purchase order header would have the same attachment as it was on the requisition header. Moving on to the next feature, specify a contract purchase agreement when processing requisition lines using Document Builder. With this new feature, users can specify a contract purchase agreement as a source document when processing requisition lines into a purchase order using the Document Builder. Before this update, users could only specify blanket purchase agreements as the source document in the Document Builder. As we can see here in the screenshot, once the requisition is added to the document builder for converting it to a purchase order, there is a source agreement option, which now even shows contract purchase agreement as the source agreement, as opposed to blanket purchase agreements were only shown here in the previous versions. So this Oracle update does support contract purchase agreements, and those can be attached to a purchase order as a source agreement. Yet another important and very useful feature in this update is apply discount to all purchase order lines. Before this update, user could enter the discount on purchase order lines one at a time. So one line at a time, users were able to enter discounts. But with this update, users can now apply discount to all purchase order lines with a single action initiated from the purchase order header. You can also view the total discount applied to the purchase order by clicking the information icon. We will look into that in the screenshots coming up. Users can apply both percentage-based and amount-based discounts using this new feature. For percentage-based discounts, the discount percentage is applied to all the lines. For amount-based discounts, the discount amount gets prorated to all the lines. So as you can see here in the screenshot, once we enable the feature, this is the edit purchase order document page. Here on the purchase order page, we have actions, and there is a new feature, apply discount at the header level. So once the user clicks on that, as we discussed, once the user clicks on that, there is a pop-up apply discount, which says discount type can be either percentage or amount. Once the discount percentage or amount is selected, the discount can be entered here, and the discount reason can be entered. Once those details are entered, the purchase order header shows the total ordered amount. In this example, that is $900. And if we click on the information icon here, The system also shows the calculation which brought us to the $900 figure. So in this example, the order before adjustments was $1,000 and the discount which was applied is $100. So that leads us to the ordered amount of $900. So that is how we can use the feature of discount on purchase order headers. Again, there are a few very important considerations that must be taken into account before going ahead and implementing this feature. User can use the apply discount action only through the UI. Currently, this feature is only available through UI. User can apply the discount to the purchase order using the apply discount action only if the base price of all the lines in the purchase orders is allowed to be changed. So there are a few conditions on the purchase order lines wherein the base price users are not able to change those base prices. So if that base price is changeable for all the purchase order lines, only then this feature comes into play. Next, the apply discount action applies discounts only on the purchase order lines that are not cancelled or finally closed. The apply discount action overrides any previously applied discount on purchase order lines. After a discount is applied using the apply discount action, you can manually update the discount amount on one or more purchase order lines if required. So these are few very important considerations which would come into play before we go ahead and start implementing and using the feature. Moving on to the next feature, search for purchase orders by project numbers and task numbers as a buyer. So in this simple but useful update, users can now search for purchase orders and purchase order schedules using project attributes such as project number and task number. Also with this update, in addition to searching purchase orders and purchase order schedules using project attributes, user can also filter requisition lines using project attributes on the view requisition lines page. As we can see here in the screenshot, we are on the manage orders page and in the headers section, in the advanced search option, we have two new attributes to search from, that is project number and task number. So buyers now have an ability to even search purchase order on project attributes based on the project attributes. In this next screenshot, we can see that even on the purchase order schedules search page, the buyers have the ability to search the project number and the task number. And based on the project numbers and task numbers, the buyers will be able to search the purchase orders, respective purchase orders. Moving on to the next update, import purchase orders with US federal attributes. So while importing purchase orders using FBDI, that is file-based data import, users can now capture the federal attributes as well that are required for the government-wide Treasury Account Symbol Adjusted Trial Balance System, that is GTAS, and Data Act reporting while importing purchase orders. This table here shows the list of US federal attributes in the FBDI file, that is file-based data import template available for PO headers. So these are all the attributes which are now added to the FBDI file for PO headers. This next slide shows the attributes for PO schedules and PO distributions which are added to the FBDI file, which are in reference to US federal attributes. So these new attributes at header, schedules and distribution levels are now added to the FBDI file so as purchase orders can be imported with US federal attributes in place. Moving on to the next update, with this new update, users can now create purchase order lines with negative amounts. If we take an example, you can use a negative amount line to represent credit for an equipment trade-in. When you receive an invoice with a negative amount line, you can match the invoice line to the negative amount purchase order line. Here, as we can see in the screenshot, there are two lines on the purchase order. The first line is the new equipment line, and the second line is the credit line, which has the description for this example as equipment trade-in, and which has $1,000 in credit, that is minus $1,000. So user is able to enter a negative line here. So once the user enters the negative line, the ordered amount automatically reduces to $9,000 for this example. And if we click on the information icon, the bifurcation of that $9,000 is shown here. That ordered amount before adjustments is $10,000 for this example, and the credit is 1K. So that is how this new feature comes into play, and we are able to enter credit lines on the purchase order itself. Moving on to the next update, view negotiation details for purchase orders and purchase agreements created as negotiation award outcomes. Using this new feature, buyers can now view negotiation details on purchase orders and purchase agreements which were made as an outcome of a negotiation award. This would help buyers enhance the traceability of source to settle cycle. This screenshot illustrates the feature. So as we can see in this screenshot, this is a purchase order. This purchase order is an outcome of a negotiation. So as we can see here now, on the purchase order itself, the buyer is able to see the negotiation number. So if the buyer wants to trace back to the negotiation from which the purchase order was created as an outcome, buyer can directly view the negotiation number here. Moving on to the next update, the Oracle update allows users to resend approval email notifications for in-progress transactions. They can select one or more transactions in the transaction console page or drill down to the transaction details page for a transaction and use resend email notification in the actions menu to notify the assignees. This feature provides the ability to resend email notifications in the event of any email deletions or loss of email data. So if there is any instance wherein the assignee of the task has lost all the email data or the email has been deleted mistakenly, then in those cases, this feature comes handy. So as we can see here in the screenshot, on the transaction console page, on any of the in progress task, the user can select any of the task, and in the actions menu there is an option to resend email notifications. So once the user clicks on the resend email notifications, the user will have an option to send the notification to all the assignees or the selected assignees. So this feature would come into handy, as we discussed, if there are any email data loss or email deletions. Moving on to the next feature, yet again in the transaction console work area. The transaction console work area now displays a yellow banner that reminds to archive completed transactions. This banner displays when the archive process has not been run in the past 3 months. You can use Archive Now to immediately archive the transactions. When you click Archive Now, a confirmation displays. If you click Dismiss, the notification is snoozed for the 24 hours, after which the message displays again. So as we can see here in the screenshot, this is the banner which shows up if the completed transactions are not archived for 3 months. Here we can see active now and dismiss options. The user can select any of those actions and take appropriate action at that point in time. Moving on to the next update, yet another update in the transaction console work area. Diagnostic log availability and attachments in transaction console. The transaction console work area is now enhanced so as the users can download the diagnostic log for healthy pending transactions. Also, the users would now be able to view all details of all the attachments added at any stage of the transaction in the diagnostic log itself. So as we can see here in the screenshot, the diagnostic log is available for download. Here as it is highlighted, the user will now be able to download the diagnostic log for a particular transaction. And as discussed, this log will also show the details of all the attachments added during the transaction process. Moving on to the next update, there are a few Oracle purchasing bug fixes in this update. The first bug fix here is prevent buyers from releasing holds initiated by external applications. So now before this update, as a buyer, the buyer could release a purchase order hold and freeze initiated by Oracle Order Management, which could result in stuck sales orders. After this update, the buyer cannot release the hold and unfreeze such purchase orders unless the buyer has the release purchase order hold and freeze initiated by requester privilege. So now moving on after this update, this particular privilege is mandatory so as the buyers can release holds which are applied through the external systems. The second bug fix here is delete purchase orders in bulk using the draft purchase order REST resource. Before this update, the user could only delete one purchase order at a time using REST resources. After this update, users can delete multiple purchase orders in a single request. The third bug fix here is truncate very long supplier names. So before this update, the application did not truncate long supplier names, which could sometimes affect the display of the user interface. So this issue resulted in user interface glitches. After this update, the application truncates supplier names to 50 characters. You can hover over the field to see the full supplier name. So these are just a few Oracle purchasing bug fixes which has been released and which would affect the how the Oracle purchasing works or the Oracle purchasing behavior. All other bug fixes which does not show us the on the front end are not there in the release notes. Moving on to the next feature, in reference to external purchase prices, this new Oracle update allows users to delete requisitioning business units mapped to a source organization from an existing requisitioning view mapping. You can delete those requisitioning views where there are no purchase agreements created for the external purchase prices tied to those requisitioning views. Once user deletes a requisitioning view from the mapping, the list of requisitioning business units is automatically updated in the existing external purchase prices. Any approval rules defined using the requisitioning view group name are also automatically updated, thus eliminating all the tedious processes. Moving on to the next update, bypass approval for agreements created from external purchase prices. Users now have an option to bypass the approval workflow for purchase agreements created from external purchase prices. This option is set in the new lookup code in the external purchase prices options lookup. So as we can see here in the screenshot, there is a lookup for external purchase prices. This is a already existing lookup in which there is a new lookup code which has added, and we can have uh, bypass as one of the values for the lookup, so as the approvals can bypass, the external purchase price approvals can bypass. The business could benefit from this feature as bypassing approval workflows ensure that you can create and update purchase agreements faster. Now you can also enable purchase agreements to allow ordering from supplier sites other than those listed as purchasing sites in the business unit site assignments. Moving on to the next feature, create supplier sites with longer names. So supplier sites sometimes need lengthy and descriptive naming conventions to meet supplier management requirements. With only 15 characters available currently for the supplier site name, meeting this requirement can be difficult. With this Oracle update, user can create supplier sites with a name of up to 240 characters to better identify them, providing flexibility to satisfy the requirements of any naming convention. So as we can see here in the screenshot, supplier, after enabling this feature, when we go ahead and create a site for a supplier, the site is now can take up to 240 characters instead of just taking 15 characters in the prior updates, prior Oracle releases. So now as we can see here, the supplier site can take as many as up to 240 characters, which would ensure better supplier management. This update includes some bug fixes that can change the way supplier model works. One such bug fix is allowing search for suppliers using any keyword across Oracle Procurement Cloud. User can now replace advanced search operators with keywords in the supplier LOV. Users can now search suppliers using keywords in the supplier LOV instead of using contains as the advanced search option. The user can directly punch in a keyword across all the supplier fields in the Oracle Procurement Cloud. So this is one very important bug fix for supplier model. Moving on to the next update in reference to Oracle sourcing. Buyers and users can now extend negotiation, which is in closed status, to give suppliers more time to respond. When a closed negotiation is extended, all the participating suppliers are notified by a new deadline so that they can submit new responses or revise their previous responses. Suppliers that already submitted their final responses don't need to resubmit. As we can see here in the screenshot, there is a RFQ which is in the status, which is a closed status. Now, if the user wants to extend this particular RFQ, and if the user wants the vendors to respond for some more time on this RFQ, the users have an option to go to actions and then extend this negotiation. Once the user clicks on extend, the RFQ will be updated to active status and suppliers would get some more time to respond on this particular negotiation. Now, moving on to yet another feature in Oracle sourcing is allow, allowing the users to control defaulting of supplier responses to predefined questions. When a supplier responds to these predefined questions in a negotiation, the responses get saved in the response repository. When supplier bidder creates a response, these responses to the predefined questions are automatically defaulted. With this new feature, user can now control the defaulting of supplier responses from the response repository for the procurement business unit. So as we can see here in the screenshot, uh, this is a part of setup and maintenance, configure procurement business unit function. In this particular setup, there is an option to control whether the user wants to automatically populate responses to the predefined questions. On business to business basis, the users can decide whether they want the responses to be auto-populated for the vendors when they try and respond to a RFQ, or they want to control that auto population and not default the responses. Moving on to the next feature, yet again a feature in sourcing, which is a new feature for large negotiations. Users can now modify all the users can now notify all the contacts for an invited supplier. So when user publishes a large negotiation, the background processes will generate the negotiation documents and response lines uh, file, that is the .csv file, which will now be sent to all the contacts of the suppliers if this feature is enabled. So as we can see here in the screenshots, this is a negotiation which is being created. It is in the creation process. Under the supplier's substation, the negotiation has an option to notify all contacts. Once notify all contacts is selected, any details related to this particular negotiation will be notified to all the contacts which are existing for this particular supplier. The user does not now necessarily have to manually add all the additional email addresses on the negotiation. Instead, the user can directly select the notify all contacts option. Moving on to yet another feature in sourcing, in negotiations, descriptive flex fields are supported for you to capture information specific to your business on the negotiation header as well as the negotiation line and negotiation abstract. So these DFFs are already available. In this update, parameters are available to derive and validate the values in the DFFs when creating a negotiation. So now we have new parameters and attributes which we can use while defining the descriptive flex fields so as to derive a value on the DFF or validate the values which are enterable on the descriptive flex fields. So here, this particular table shows these new attributes which are added for derivation and validation purposes. Sourcing negotiation abstracts are here are listed here. The attributes for negotiation header are listed here, and the attributes for negotiation lines are also listed here. All these attributes can be used when we create new DFS so as we can have more control over the validation and derivation of the values which can be entered in the descriptive flex fields. Moving on to the next update, this update includes some bug fixes that can change the way Oracle sourcing works. As a part of the bug fix, Oracle has introduced infolets for large negotiations or on the sourcing landing page. This will help users to get a bird's eye view of large negotiations. Moving on to the new update. This new update is in reference to spend classification, which allows users to add new categories to an existing taxonomy or edit categories in a taxonomy by changing category names at any level. Users can now use the upload taxonomy action to revise an active taxonomy, modify existing category names, or add new categories to extend the taxonomy. With this capability, users no longer need to delete the taxonomy they would like to modify, upload a revision version, and then rebuild any impacted knowledge bases that were using the previous version of taxonomy. So all these tedious processes can now be eliminated with this new update of adding or modifying categories in the existing taxonomies. Now, coming down to the last update of this session, in reference to the spend classification, user can now define rules using additional classification attributes. This new update helps in improving results by allowing classification process business rules to be defined using any of up to 20 additional attributes that can be included into each dataset. This enhancement improves accuracy of the spend classification results by enabling key information stored in the extended attributes to be used to tune the classification process. Furthermore, you can use the improved business rules with new comparison operators to check even for the blank values. So in all, to summarize, this new feature helps users to better classify their spend categories using new attributes, and these new attributes can be added into each dataset. Thank you everyone for listening to the webinar and attending the webinar. I would now like to pass on the mic to our host Komal, and she can take you further. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddhi, for such wonderful insights. Before we move to Q&A, with the help of a quick poll, we would like to note down your area of interest in order to organize future webinars with more value-based content. Launching the webinar here. Please do let us know your area of interest, whether it is managed services, innovation technologies, or cloud transformation. Thank you all for participating. Closing the poll now. Now let's quickly move towards question and answer part. Utsav, I would like to know if there are some questions which you would like to answer.
So if you would like to unmute, or there's a question from Mary Ricoler that can you explain each of them with, I don't know, it would be easy if you can elaborate, please. So also, there's another question, I think. So can you unmute yourself, please? There's a question from the seer if you want to take it up now, or we can connect him at a later stage. We can't hear you, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hello.
we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, Hardik.
Yeah, there is a question if you want to take it up right now, or we can connect Nasir at a later stage. Also, there is a question from a couple of questions from Desna and Janas as well. A few questions if you want to take it up now from the question panel.
Yeah, let's get back with these answers to the attendees.
Okay, so we'll get back to them one-to-one basis on
Sure.
an email, or
Yeah.
we'll connect them. Okay, we'll note it
Some
down.
of them
And
we've already answered. Some of them will get back very soon.
okay, no worries. So we'll thank everyone, and now we'll also note down the question, and we'll get back to you.
Thank you, Hardik. Thank you, Utsav. So now you'll receive an email in a couple of days wherein presentation and sessions recording would be available to you at a single click. These are upcoming sessions. What happens next? So you'll be receiving presentation and sessions recording. You can speak to your CES support manager or CES service manager for additional services around quarterly updates. On the right hand side, we have our next sessions which are planned. Before you leave us, we would like to have a quick feedback on today's session. I am going to launch a poll on your screens now. Please rate your overall experience of today's session. Thank you all for participating. Last question for this session today. I would request the audience to please participate in the last poll. Launching the poll now. Thank you all. Closing the poll. As mentioned, we would get back to your queries. Thank you all. You have been a wonderful audience today.